In this video, I'll be demonstrating how you can export your SLRAT data as a shapefile using your SLDOG portal. So I'll start with how you can enhance your SLRAT data with custom fields using the mobile app or the web portal. I'll walk through how you can export that shapefile from your SLDOG portal. And finally, I'll give a very simple introduction to ArcGIS and demonstrate what an example SLRAT dataset looks like with Esri Sewer Network example. Of course, you are able to use any program that accepts shapefiles instead of ArcGIS. A shapefile is just one of the ways you can export your SLRAT data. You can also export your data in a CSV format for programs like Microsoft Excel, or a KML file for Google Earth, which is another great method for mapping your SLRAT data. And finally, you can also export a PDF file. Learning how to add meaningful notes to your blockage assessment scores using the app or web portal can be a helpful tool, disregardless of what file format you choose to export. So I'll start by showing you how to do that with the mobile app. The SLDOG app is free and works with Android and iOS phones. It's a good solution for operators that want to add notes to measurements while conducting the tests in the field. When a user first logs into the SLDOG app, they'll see a list of devices in their portal. And to select the correct device, you'll need to look at the small sticker located on your RX device, and that serial number is the device ID. So once the test is complete, the RX will give a measurement assessment result. To add notes using the app now, the operator can select the device in their app and select the Add Measurement button at the top. You can see users can add up to 5 custom user fields right here, as well as endpoints or other notes. What is really critical here is that you want to get into the practice of always verifying the record ID, which is located at the top of the page. This is auto-populated but is done sequentially, so it may not correlate perfectly with the record ID displayed on your RX device. You want to really make sure these two numbers are exactly the same, as that's essential to ensuring that correct notes are attributed to the correct measurement scores. To actually add a note, just click on the box and write in the relevant notes. You might use the 5 different user fields to indicate different attributes of the segment being tested. For example, segment ID for user field 1, basin ID for user field 2, and so on. Or you might just be looking for a way to attribute one unique identifier, such as a segment ID, to then correlate the rest of those details, in which case you can just fill out one user field in the same way. Either way, this is a practical application for both of those situations. You can also add manual IDs if that's available in this endpoints section, and that can help you verify the GPS later if so desired. Once you're done, make sure to click Save. Now you can see how simple it is to add notes using the mobile app while conducting tests in the field. To see these notes with your acoustic test data, you'll need to upload the data from your SLRAT device. To clarify, here's a simple diagram of the data workflow. We're at step 2 where you're adding notes using the app, and step 1 is where you are conducting acoustic tests. For those two data sets to sync, you'll have to upload the SLRAT measurements on your device by connecting the SLRAT to a computer using a USB cable and using the desktop app, also known as the local client. While the mobile app is a great solution for adding notes in the field, you also have the capability to add notes or edit notes after the data has been collected. And this is done by using the SLDOG web portal, which I will demonstrate next. You can log in by going to www.sl-dog.com. Once you log in, you'll see the list of devices in your portal. I want to point out this one setting here, user field settings, which will give you the capability to customize the user field headings. For example, if you want to have very consistent data entry, you might want to rename user field 1 something very generic to something more specific, like segment ID. And once you save that, that will reflect in the mobile app as well as in this portal. To actually go ahead and add notes, you can select a device or multiple devices and select View Selected. From here, there are 2 ways to edit notes. One is from this page, you select the icon underneath notes. Clicking this brings you up this pop-up, and you can see that user field 1 is now segment ID, and you can enter notes here and save that. And it's as simple as that. Now, you can see that user field isn't one of the columns that is showing up, but you can just click this drop down, and by selecting all columns, you'll be able to see the user fields. Additionally, by selecting this first view detail icon, which is underneath that first column, you come to the measurement editing page, and from here you can edit the GPS coordinates, but you can also edit the same things as you could from that previous page. Clicking any of these icons brings up that same editing notes and endpoint IDs pop-up dialog, from which you can go ahead and add more notes and save it, and it all gets saved to the same place. Okay, so once you're ready to actually export the shapefile, you can do it from two places. From this home page, if you want to export all of the measurements that were taken with a specific device, you can go ahead and select a device or multiple devices and click the option Download Shape here. Alternatively, you can also view a specific device and just select individual measurements that you want to view or export. And you can click Export Shape here. And SLDOG will then download that file. Here I can see that the download has completed. And so when I open my downloads, you can see that it's right here. Now I want to extract this file because it is in a zip file format, and I'm going to select extract. And that's just going to make this folder that I can then access from ArcGIS. I do have an ArcGIS folder that I'm going to then move this to, so that when I'm actually trying to look for this file, it will be easy to find. And you can always rename it to something more accessible. And so here I have this ArcGIS SLDOG folder, and I'm just going to move it here. This is going to be a quick overview of ArcGIS. I'm going to show what the tool looks like, and I've downloaded an example that Esri provided, so I'm going to show what an exemplary sewer network ArcGIS file looks like, and then I'm going to download a sample SLDOG file into that map and show how those attributes can correlate. And so this is how the program looks like when you first open it, and essentially you're just bringing in different data to visually show. And so first I'm going to show the ArcGIS example, which is actually Naperville, Illinois, just by coincidence. And so if I go and click this, I can go ahead and import that by clicking Add. By clicking Add again. And so it's going to populate these different layers that are representative of different things in this map. That is very tiny right now. So let's zoom to that layer and take a look at this representation. I'm going to go ahead and add a base map so that it has a little bit of context. And now we can see all of these different layers on top of this base map, which just comes with the ArcGIS program. As you can see, it's very complex, comprised of many, many different components. And yeah, I think it's really cool that you can visually see all this. So I'm going to actually just deselect or turn all layers off and focus on the base map, and focus on the manholes and the gravity mains, because those are what we want to focus on in the context of SLDOG. So as you can see, you have all of these different lines, and in fact, you can go ahead and learn more about each of these representative lines by clicking on the attribute. I can show you what that looks like. The computer's a little bit slow because this program is taking up a lot of its energy, but here we go. All right, so we won't get too close, but what is this line? What does this line mean? Well, you can go ahead and open what is called an attribute table, and everything that is, these are all of the what is associated, the data associated with each of these lines, and we can go ahead and just ask for what we selected. And here we can see that the segment ID is 2100-37. We can also see what manhole it's going from and to, or between rather, and you can see that there's all of these different columns representing different data about this line. You can select multiple, and in fact you can even select based on the attribute. So for example, if you wanted to select all pipes that, or all segments that have a diameter of 8 or less, you can do that, and it's called select by attribute, and you can see that all of the columns are listed here in this box, and in the example I said diameter, so we can go ahead and do that. Diameter less than or equal to 8. We apply that, and you can see that it filters based on the command that I created, and also will then highlight that selection. And so you can even see that certain segments were not included or not selected based on that, and you can create different layers to save this information and reference it. And so those are sort of the two main ways that are some of the ways that you can work with this data. Now I'm going to go ahead and import the SLDOG data into this. I've already downloaded the SLDOG data. It comes in a zip file, so you unzip it, and it's very straightforward that you just move it to a folder that your ArcMap is referencing. And so I've already connected. It says folder connections. These are all folders that I've already connected to this program so that it knows where to reference. And I have my Naperville example from SLDOG. So I'm going to select that and add it to my existing layers. And you can see that it populated here. I'm going to go ahead and rename it because that's a little bit easier to see. SLRAT data, we'll call it. And I'm going to actually zoom to it because we know that it's a massive number or a very complex network of different things, and here it is. So that's my SLRAT data, and it's very unremarkable when you actually import it into ArcGIS at first. I'm gonna actually make it larger so that you believe that it's there. And as you can see, we have different segments that have, or different assessment scores that have been imported in through this process. So you can obviously change the display of the line as I just did there by bolding it or changing it to a different symbol. You can also change the color of the lines based on the attribute. So in short, making it look more like what it looks like when you import it into Google Earth. I'm gonna show that. So you're going to open the attribute table for SLRAT data, and so you can see it's a lot smaller, and in fact all of these lines have all of this data that you can find in SLDOG. I'm going to go ahead and so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to color code it based on its assessment score. So to do that, I'm going to open this thing called a layer property, and there's the symbology already comes up, and that's what we're working with. We want to change the symbol based on its attribute.
instead of all other values, we're going to add values and, and we, not the test duration, but you could certainly color code it based on test duration. I want to do it based on the assessment, right? So let's add the values that are existing in the data that I imported, which only comprise of these 4 values. But of course, if all of them were existing, you could do that. So I'm just going to color code it similar to what we have in Google Earth, except I'm going to give block rather than white. I've given it a gray color so that just because the background is, the roads are white. 5 is fair, so we're going to give that the yellow. And 9 is good, so we'll give it a green. Okay. And we're going to apply that. And you'll see that on the map, it changed according to the conditions that we set. And this now looks a little bit more like what we're used to seeing, right? The green representing good, yellow representing fair, red representing poor, and gray representing block. Now, what if you wanted to, like I showed before with the diameter size, actually select based on the assessment score? Of course, you can do that with this data as well. Exactly the same way. You select by attributes, and in this case, if for example, if a utility cleaned for any pipe that scored 5 or below, they could create a map layer that's based on that. So assessment is what we're looking for. I want to select all assessments that are less than or equal to 5. Let's apply that, and you'll see that all of the scores that are 5 and below have been selected on this map, and that makes it really easy to then understand the where visual it's easy to visually see where those points are. Oops. Cool. So next, I'm showing that you can do that. I think one of the cooler things you can do in this program is actually then look at these 2 different tables and overlay them, and then have a visual representation immediately. So, for example, well, first of all, compared to Google Earth, here you can actually select based on the score or filter, and so it's a lot more powerful because it's like having a Excel file and having that actually directly go into Google Earth and portraying the different things that you're filtering for. But I did go ahead, and in SLDOG, I went in and edited each of these measurements. So you can see that this measurement, for example, has a RxID that I imported by looking at the manholes. And I just assigned the manholes as a RxID and a TXID. And I also gave it this user field 1 is representative of the segment ID that existed for the sewer gravity mains. So for example, I want to actually zoom in a little bit here. This line, for example, has the facility identifier as 1720-554. Here, 1720-554 should be this line, and in fact it is. So great, we have the segments that are closest to the assessments have the associated segment IDs appropriately input through SLDOG. Yeah, so in theory, if a utility were to input those segment IDs, they could then join tables, as I'm about to show you. So I'm gonna not have anything selected, and yeah, so I'm going to join, I'm going to bring in the sewer gravity mains data table into the SLRAT data table, and I'm going to show you that that's actually very simple to do. In fact, it is just this. You join, and we are going to go on user field 1, which I could have appropriately renamed facility identifier because that's what it actually is. And we're going to reference the sewer gravity mains, and facility identifier is already selected. So we're just going to press OK, and it's as simple as that. It's all together. If you saw, there is actually in the join and relates join, there's a validate join, and I've done this before, so I know that the validation comes through. But that's something else you can do to ensure that you're correctly joining these tables. And so, yeah, that allows you to then work with this conjoined table. And so what is the context in which this would be useful? For example, if you wanted to find all pore lines in a specific basin, that data you don't necessarily have to put into SLDOG. You could actually just reference from your existing map, right? So if here we have the diameter information, that wasn't input anywhere in SLDOG, but we have it because just by being diligent about putting in the segment ID, we can actually then just bring that data in directly from our existing data set in ArcGIS. So then we can go ahead and, we can do the same thing that we've done previously, that I've shown you previously, but instead of, let's select something that wouldn't have been normally in SLDOG, for example, diameter, then we can actually filter our SLRAT scores based on these additional data, which is pretty powerful. So yeah, if we were to select diameter, and we're gonna select anything that's let's say that's greater than 8. Just the one. So, but this can be anything that is already existent in your sewer network in ArcGIS. So it could be basin, could be type of material. Yeah, so as you can see, this could be a really interesting way to look at your SLRAT data in correlation with existing data. So that's sort of how far I've gotten with this. As you can see, there is just a huge array of different tools and ways to work with this data, but this is sort of a simple and quick overview